So we're meeting today for what I want to call, I guess, Campus Sages. My vision for it is that sometime in our lives we all have learned things that we should pass on. I think it'd be really helpful in the campus ministry to have the campus ministers who have experience of gone through a lot of things to be able to share to the younger campus ministers, and that this would just be a tool for up and coming or any other campus minister to get new ideas, tidbits, things that worked, things that didn't, encouragement, stuff like that. So that's the whole purpose. And so I'm Roger Charley here, and he is our Campus Christian Fellowship administrator and has been in the ministry how many years?
I started in 1984, so almost 34, 33 years now.
Yeah, awesome. How would you define campus ministry if we were just, what we're talking about here?
The simple answer would be just having the college students as your target audience to minister to. That'd be our community, but I really think that it's having a voice for Jesus to an emerging generation. I mean, the students here, not kids anymore. I mean, they're adults, but they're the ones who pretty quickly are going to be leaders in churches, going to be leaders in the mission field and their communities, and to be able to have families, to be able to have a voice at this stage in their life for Jesus, and just hopefully lay or build on a foundation there to when they leave here.
That really relates to me because when I was a student here at Iowa State, I was not a Christian, so I found Jesus through the ministry, which makes me passionate about it. And I'll probably tell the story later in this venue, but I just really respect that. I mean, that's exactly, from a student perspective, is really what I needed at the time, because I was wondering what's next, and things that I was trying to do weren't filling the void, and I was scared, not knowing where I was going to end up or what I was going to do or who I was going to work for, if I would have a job, if somebody would hire me or not, and just that's great. I really like the definition.
I think there's two legs that campus ministry stands on, and one you hit on. One is evangelism. We want to reach people who are followers of Jesus and point them to Him. And the other is discipleship, that we want to be able to take either the new believer or the student who comes here with a walk with Christ, take them deeper so that they're prepared for when they leave here to make an impact for them.
Awesome. How'd you get started in campus ministry? What attracted you to campus ministry?
Right after I graduated from high school, I became a Christian that summer. And so I had no clue what campus ministry was, but I was pretty excited about Jesus. And so when I went off to college, we had some guys who came by to want to know if we wanted to be a part of a Bible study. And so I jumped at that, and actually later on got involved in a different ministry that's kind of a sister ministry to us now, but it took me from a baby Christian, and just a pretty formative time for me spiritually. And so that's what I knew when I felt like God was calling me to go into some type of ministry. And the value of it was just, we knew what the value was. My wife came to know Christ because of a campus ministry, and so God opened the doors for us to be able to give back to the very kind of ministry that had poured their life into us. So
it's awesome. It's a great way it's giving back. And now, hopefully we can, in this venue, give back again.
Oh,
so up and coming. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you coming here and starting this very first video.
No problem. Your interviewees will get better as we go along.
I don't know.
Get some real sages.
Start at the top. What's the most rewarding aspect of campus ministry to you?
Seeing 5, 10, 15 years down the road and seeing alumni that are people like you. This weekend we went to a wedding of one of our alumni from over at Iowa, and just to see how he and his now bride, how Christ was just the very center of their relationship, and how having a job as a physical therapist, he still uses that to honor God. Done some service trips with that. We spent time on that same weekend with another guy who had been a part of our ministry, who's now a campus minister. And at the wedding, sat across the table from a gal who'd been involved with us at Iowa as a nurse and is looking at mission opportunities now to use her degree. And 2 nights ago, had some alumni who are actively serving Christ here in town and their church, and to be able to see people 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road that get it.
Yeah.
And are living it out. That's the best thing. I always tell people that I'll tell you if we had a good year 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and because that's when the rubber meets the road.
Yes.
Yeah, to see that there's a lifetime of commitment being made.
Kind of see the fruit.
Yeah.
So that's maturity at that point.
Yeah,
Hasn't quite
that's
yet.
true. Well, that and it's one thing to do when you have a group of friends that are apart and you have a community here, but when they leave here and they found a new Christian community and are seeking that out and are living it out, that's to me that defines that's easy to see that God's doing something in those settings.
Right. What do you find is the most frustrating?
A couple things, probably. Maybe not the most frustrating, but one of the hardest things is you're always saying goodbye.
Oh yeah.
And
every year.
Every year, every semester, usually. And so, I don't think you ever get used to that. Probably the most frustrating thing is I think sometimes those who, even followers of Christ, who aren't familiar with what happens on campus don't really get campus ministry. I think sometimes they look at us as a college age youth group, and I think we're way more than that. Nothing wrong with youth groups, but I think that you have students who are young adults who are leading worship and leading short-term mission trips and discipling other people and leading in Bible studies and it really is a leadership development time for them.
That's true. Yeah, I guess I can see that too. Since we're not going overseas, a lot of people don't see it as a mission field.
Yeah, I think sometimes people have a hard time seeing it that way.
But how many students are at Iowa State? 30-some?
36,000.
36,000, yeah. And I don't know what population of them are believers. I don't know if there's any data on that. Pretty small, I would say.
Right.
Or
I would
it's just
I would less than 10% would be involved in any kind of campus ministry, I would guess.
okay.
Yeah.
So huge opportunity there. What's one of the funniest things you remember that's happened? One of the funny stories.
I knew you were going to ask that. I was asking Nancy that, and sometimes it's hard to pick it out.
Yeah.
From traveling a lot and from having done this a long time, I have a pretty big network of people that I've gotten to know. And we were down in Mexico one time, and our students were saying, wherever we go, people. And I said, I don't either. And we were sitting in the van talking about that, and we walked into a mercado, a Mexican marketplace. As we walked in the door, a guy sitting there from a church over in Griswold, Iowa, said, "Hey, Roger!" so yeah, perfect timing.
He knows everybody.
Right, even in other countries. But anyway, that story's come up recently, and there's just tons of stories. But that's the first one that came to mind.
Yeah. Highlight a God story, something that had to be the hand of God at play.
I think there's just a lot of stories when students have come to know who Christ is, and to see how God uses somebody who you talk to lead somebody else to Christ, to lead somebody else to Christ, to lead somebody else to Christ. One of the early years of my doing campus ministry, we had a student who was an atheist, and he showed up because he liked one of the girls that was part of our group, and he was pretty outspoken atheist. But he kept coming to things because he liked her, and actually he told me one time, and we didn't kick him out when he expected that to happen.
Oh yeah.
But you know, God just started doing some work on him. We were at a retreat down in Lake of the Ozarks, and he gave his life to Christ, baptized on the night before Easter down at the lake.
Awesome.
And I think it was the next year or year after that, there was a girl who started coming, and he and her got into just some deep conversations, had to build a good friendship, and he called me up one night to come talk to her, and so you know, we talked. I kind of said something I hardly ever say to anybody. I said, you know, I think you need to either pray for the willingness to accept Christ or turn your back on him. And she didn't say anything, and I left. And I said, "Oh no, I think I did that wrong."
Oh, no.
And you know, 2 hours later, about 2 o'clock in the morning, the phone called. She wanted to be baptized.
Wow.
And the next year, this girl became an RA. Your Iowa State, you call them CA.
Resident assistant.
Yeah, resident assistant. And she had a girl from China who lived on her floor, whose parents had warned her about Christians. And she just spoke into her life, loved on her, and baptized this girl into Christ too. So actually the guy who was the atheist that baptized this girl.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the students that we've had that just see the progression of one conversation and that person impacting somebody who impacts somebody who impacts somebody. And I think those are the coolest God stories, because if that one conversation hadn't happened, somebody who maybe they don't even, that person didn't know might not know who Jesus is.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
those are my favorite stories.
That's cool.
Yeah.
As a board member, one of the things we enjoy most is just hearing the stories. You know, it's just fun to hear what's going on, and helps us connect. And
Oh yeah.
it's one of my favorite parts of board meetings. What is something you unexpectedly learned from the students?
I grew up in a little tiny town and always played it pretty safe. I went to college, 80 miles from my hometown, and went home on weekends, and have always defaulted, I think, to taking a safe route. And our students are really good risk takers. Okay. And I think the value I have learned to be able to say, yeah, that's out of my comfort zone, but I'm willing to do it. If you're willing to do it, I'm willing to do it. Yeah. And so I think being around college students who have that daringness has helped me to participate in that a little bit. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Where do you see the most untapped potential for growth in campus ministry?
I think there's a couple huge areas. We in Iowa, there are a lot of small colleges, a lot of community colleges, and we, as a rule, campus ministries haven't been have much visibility, I think, on those campuses. And I think that we need to figure a way that we can tap into that. I think our country's going in a direction where you're going to see more and more students that are going to go to the community college first, and so that they'll come to the state university when they're juniors. And that's 2 years that we need to have a voice in their life. I think the churches in college towns are, this is maybe not untapped, but I think they're starting to realize that, hey, we can minister to these students, and I don't think you saw as much of that coming from the local congregation 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
I think internationally, I think that we see more students doing internships abroad, and there are some campus ministries that are very very good that are using those students to have a voice in those other countries. And I think we need to be an international voice too.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to see us go that direction too, more and more.
Yeah.
I think, and this is not untapped, but we need to do better just with international students coming here too. That's growing exponentially, the number of international students. 4,000 at Iowa State, 4,000 at University of Iowa.
Okay.
A lot of those are countries we can't send missionaries to.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, we need to do better in that, be more aggressive in that.